Therefore I tell you, stop being worried or anxious, perpetually uneasy, distracted about your life as to what you will eat, what you will drink, nor about your body as to what you will wear. Is life not more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air; they neither sow seed nor reap a harvest, nor gather the crops in the barns, and yet your heavenly Father keeps feeding them. Are you not worth much more than they? And who of you by worrying can add one more hour to the length of his life? And why are you worried about clothes? See how the lilies and wildflowers of the field grow. They do not labor, nor do they spin wool to make clothing. Yet I say to you that not even Solomon in his glory and splendor dressed himself like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive and green today and tomorrow is cut and thrown as fuel into the furnace, will he not much more clothe you? You of little faith. Therefore do not worry or be anxious, perpetually uneasy, distracted, saying, what are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? What are we going to wear? For the pagan Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, but do not worry. Your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But first and most importantly, seek, aim at, strive after his kingdom and his righteousness, his way of doing things, being right in the attitude and character of God, and all these things will be given to you also. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. That was Matthew chapter 6. That was the Amplified version of verse 25 and 34. So this is going to be a simple, short message. I've entitled it "Diagnosed with Worry." Worry is a powerful thing. This past week I've seen so many people, just inundated with worry. People are just generally anxious, and some of it has to do for things that are coming up with the eclipse, the alignment of these stars, and people are worried and are fearful about it. For others it's just everyday tasks that they have to keep track of. It's worry is just abounding. It seems, at least in my perspective this past week, that's what I've seen. It's just worry is abounding. The intensity of it all has even paralyzed some. They can't eat, can't sleep, for all the stress, that they've entertained in their minds. It's as if we're, this is kind of an example. It's like we're on a train. The window in the front's blacked out. We can't see what's coming, and all we can see is what's out the side windows, what's here and now. It's up to us to take those things in as they come. God is in the driver's seat. He knows what's laying ahead. He knows all these things that are coming up. He knows where these tracks lead. He's put these tracks down. But some can't accept that we can't know what's up the track a few miles. Some people just can't give that control over, can't give that control up, and I just, they become paralyzed. They unhitch their cart and they just sit there on the track because they're afraid to move. They're paralyzed with fear. And therefore they grow more and more apart from God, who knows what we're going through, who knows the plan, knows what He has planned for us. And talking to some this past week, I gave an example about how we can jump to so many preposterous conclusions, if left to our own devices and resources, and I kind of, used an example, in the past 15 years especially, this has become more popular. If you have something, you're a symptom, you go online, and you look it up. Okay, what does WebMD say about this? And
you start looking these things up, and it's like, okay, I've got, I'm nauseous, I've got a sore throat, and I can't sleep. Well, after consulting with Dr. WWW, I found that I may have throat cancer, a rare heart condition, and most likely Ebola. So, it's a funny thing to jump to all these, but this is what we do. We get so worried, and we jump to the extreme of what's out there. And we feel like we're losing control, and it brings fear into us. It paralyzes us. So this, it's over-exaggeration, of course. I mean, it was just an example that I came up with because I've seen people do this. They have a sore throat, or they have a spot on them. They get online, oh, this is definitely this, and they don't even think about it any further, and they just know that's that, And we do that constantly. If we're left to our own understanding, it's like throwing the fuel on the fire, of our stress, and our worries. In Proverbs chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep thy commandments. For the length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart, so that thou find favor and good understanding in the Spirit of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil." We're not supposed to rely on our own understanding, our own wisdom. He gives us that wisdom if we ask him for wisdom in a certain thing. And I know, Lauren and I do this all the time because there's a lot of uncertainties, especially with jobs and different aspects of life. We're always asking, give us wisdom, because what else are we going to do? If we're left to do it on our own, we're kind of stuck. We don't know where to go. But have you ever heard the phrase, worried sick? And I actually used it this morning. When Jen and David got here, kind of talking about some things. But if you ever heard that term, worried sick, have you ever worried yourself sick? Is it possible to worry yourself sick? We ask these questions. Some of us already kind of know the answers. But I looked up something just to kind of, because I knew that there had been some studies done on this, and I found this little phrase I took out of this long abstract of a paper that was done on this. Chronic stress has a significant effect on the immune system that ultimately manifests an illness. And that's from the Department of Psychiatry, School of Medical Sciences in Malaysia. So, there are secular, foundations in that, that if you worry, you're going to get sick. You're going to be more prone to a lower immune system. These things are going to come in and physically manifest. In Proverbs 12, verse 25, "Heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stoop, but a good word maketh it glad." And the Amplified, because I included both versions here. "Anxiety in a man's heart weighs it down, but a good, encouraging word makes it glad." So there's your scientific backing on this, and there's a verse from the Bible that shows that that this anxiety can physically affect you, and it's very apparent if somebody is extremely worried about something. You can see it written on their face. But what it is anxiety is it's a spiritual weapon, and the enemy loves to wield this weapon because it's like throwing napalm on a city that's built up out of wooden structures. As soon as that first little worry gets in there, it spreads. And if we're if we are trying to put out each corner of this fire, it's spreading somewhere else. I mean, it's like we can't control that. We can't battle that. We can't battle that worry in our own strength. And it's, like Alex said, in our own strength, we're very limited. We like to think that we're strong with things, and I can deal with that. But we're extremely limited. When it comes to these things that take over your mind, these things that paralyze you. Let's see. So, what do we have? How can we overcome this stress? How can we overcome this? It's almost as if it's almost like someone pursuing us, like somebody is pursuing us. And I've heard it said too, it's like I can't get away from it. It's like the voices in my head, it's like keeps coming back. I cannot, get away from it. It's something there. It's always there. If I go to sleep, it wakes me up. It's there. In the back of my mind. That's the enemy. He's trying to pursue you. He plants that in your mind. That little chink, and then gets in and invades. But in Psalms 9, verse 9 and 10, it says, "The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. And they that know thy name will put their trust in thee, for thou, Lord, hast not forsaken them that seek thee." So we have to put our faith and trust in the Lord. If we try to do this in our own strength, we're going to fail. But the Lord has promised. This is a promise. This is something that we can stand on. He is a refuge for the oppressed. And when you are worrying about something, when you're stressed about something, you are being oppressed. It is a very oppressive thing to be worried about, finances, or worried about your job, or worried about these things that we battle with each and every day. Something as small as just, anything. I mean, we come up to these situations every day in our life, 100 times, and all these things could take over, if we let them. If we give them that little inch, they will take over, and become this monster that will paralyze us. In Deuteronomy 31, verse 6, "Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee." That the words, "fear not," that occurs over 60 times throughout the Bible. Fear not. Whenever an angel of the Lord would appear, it would strike fear, because it was something so amazing, so wonderful, so just overtaking. It would, "Fear not. This is who I am. Fear not." We hear that all throughout, and it's such a hard concept to grasp. Sometimes, because we think of things in our own strength, and we think that we have this. As long as this doesn't happen, we'll be okay. As long as this unexpected thing doesn't occur, and it's like, what if that occurs? Oh, there goes the what ifs again. What if I'm paralyzed? And that's the thing that we have to keep our focus off of all the what ifs, and off of all the worries, off of all the stresses. And we have to give all that to God, because if we don't, we'll be paralyzed. We'll be just sitting there on the tracks, not going anywhere, not getting closer to God, moving further away, definitely, because He's not called us to sit on the tracks, So, that, as I said, it wasn't a very long message, but that was a very simple message that I'd seen this, happening all week. Just stress overtaking people, worry, anxiety, and each individual person kind of has to give that up for themselves. You can't tell somebody, you just got to do this, do this and you're okay. In their mind, that's like, yeah, you say that and that's easy for you, but it's not that easy, because they have to do that for themselves. They have to make that choice, and it's a hard choice to make, because you're battling with your mind. you have an internal battle going on, and it's a very difficult thing to do, and I understand that. But if we put our hope and trust, our focus in the Lord, we should. He has promised that He is a refuge for the oppressed.